See, unless, well, unless it's, well, the charter can't go against.
All right, we're answering emails.
They have to align with municipal law.
The state, okay. the state law.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's just like, I just want
Great.
to like respond and
I got
make
some
a whole
stuff in
number.
Back to this.
I know.
Oh, there's. Okay, so here's this first.
Yeah, the hearing. Oh, you mean the voting on the local? You could make a motion to put it first on the agenda. Yep. You can always. Oh, yeah, by motion, you can rearrange. Mike said that maybe people would want. No, we're gonna bring it down.
Rearrange the motion so that comes first.
Mayor, Councilor Kelly wondered if, because clearly we have a lot of people here interested in the hearing, if it would be possible to move the vote for the local law to the front of the agenda rather than at the end. I'm sure people are gonna want to go home rather than stay. So
That's fine, yes, yeah, fine.
is that okay?
Yep.
Is that okay with the remainder of
Oh.
council if we do that?
What's that?
Is that okay? I'm just asking.
Yeah,
Is that okay with the
yeah,
remainder of
good with
council
me.
if we do that? Okay.
Yeah, 'cause it's the last.
It's the very last thing and people would have to wait.
We
the
don't
whole
want to do
meeting.
that to you.
It's fine.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and isn't there something going on with Strand tonight?
A concert.
Yeah.
There's another chair here if you want to come in.
It starts at, no. It starts at 6:30, but I think it's gonna start at 7.
Do we want to turn
We played at, I think the mayor's coming here, Mr. Sim.
It's gonna be such a great show.
It is, he's fantastic.
But I have to leave.
I know.
Burlington at 4:30 in the morning. My flight is at 5:30.
Okay, hey, we're gonna do
I'm going home after this.
Go home,
That's
some
fine.
dinner.
Yeah.
The first time, like.
Okay, folks, it's 5 PM. We're going to, the city of Plattsburgh is holding a public hearing to hear public comment on proposed local law P5 and local law amending chapter 230, sections 1, 2, and 3 of the city code of the city of Plattsburgh, amending recreational fires in the city of Plattsburgh. I'll take a motion to open the public hearing. Motion by Councilor Canales, second by Councilor Gibbs. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The public hearing is now open. We are asking anybody who would like to comment on the hearing. I know that there was a sign-in sheet, so thank you for doing that. We'll go through the sign-in sheet, and then anybody else who would like to comment who is not on the sheet will be invited up to comment, right? And we'll start with Ms. Myers.
I've lived in the city of Plattsburgh on the same corner for 30 years. My husband and I have fire pits. We always have. We maybe have 6 or 8 of them a year. We never heard of any problems with the fire department. Actually, we were told by a fireman that used to live next to us, they've never been called to a problem with a fire pit, if that's the reason they want to stop. I've heard people say it's because of health reasons, for allergies. I myself have allergies. I'm allergic to the stuff that gets stirred up when you mow the lawn. I'm not here asking you to ban people from mowing the lawn because of health issues for me. I close my windows. I don't think that's unfair. I mean, we follow the laws. I know we never have a fire before a burn ban. We have a covered fire pit. We've always got the hose charged up and ready right next to it. It's never left unattended. So I don't see what the problem is where anybody thinks we have to ban it. If you don't like the smell of wood smoke, close your windows. People burn wood inside in the wintertime. Why is it a problem with us having a little bit burning on the outside?
Thank you. Mr. Myers,
No, I'm good.
thank you. Ms. Snow.
Hi there, my name is Denise Snow. I live at 34 South First Street. Been there about 35 years. I'm on the south end of town. The south end of town, for the people that don't go down there too often, have really big yards. And so most of my neighbors, which I know almost all of them, really have some strong feelings about this law. So last night I walked around just Ward 1 and Ward 2, which is where I live, and one of our Richards hung out for a little while and passed the petition around, and people had some very interesting comments. And I wanted to share them with you. First of all, many people didn't know about this public hearing and didn't know about the law. So what that shows to me is people don't have good access to what's going on at City Hall. And I think honestly, that could be improved. I honestly think that the only reason people knew about this in my realm is because I put something out on Plattsburgh Street Team and a Facebook group. And so the people really responded very strongly to that. And if you look at that page, you'll see that there was very few comments that people were feeling really good about this new law that's going into effect. Most of the comments that you see, and there was hundreds, people were really upset that the government would take their right to have a backyard fire. The other interesting thing that I found on that page was that people didn't know there was an existing law. So again, what I'm going to ask for you, City Hall, is to do some education. Let's educate the public what the current laws are, the 25-foot rule, the Ember Guard, having a way to put out the fire that's right there and efficient, having responsible people watching the fire, and it's not something that you let kids watch. The laws that we have currently in place are adequate. They could be improved, and I have a couple ideas. One of them is, it's really easy to get a GIS map. So easy to get a GIS map. And then you could see which properties could have the adequate amount of room for a 25-foot setback for the fire pit. If they don't have that room, they shouldn't be able to have a fire pit. That could be enforced either by landlords, right? A lot of the smaller properties are, as we know, rental properties. Plattsburgh has, what is it, 57% rental properties or some crazy number like that. GIS map would tell you which properties could have a fire pit. Simple. Landlord restrictions. If the landlords don't have enough room on their property, then they need to put something in their lease that there is no allowance, just like the HOAs do on the north end of town, that there's no fire pits because there is no room for you to have one. Public education, I already talked about. One of the things that I've heard when I was going around is enforcement. Apparently the enforcement has not been adequate and maybe preferential. So what I wanted to say about that is the enforcement needs to be done. So if somebody calls about a fire in their neighbor's backyard, please respond. The police need to respond appropriately, make the fire go out. And if it's a repeat, maybe you should think about in the regulations, having some sort of fine or take their fire pit away. Last resort is permitting. I read an interesting article from a downstate town where they were in the same boat we are right now. And what they ended up doing is, if your property was the right size for the 25-foot setback, they issued an annual permit, free. But at least they were permitted and people knew who had fire pits and who were allowed to have fire pits. Then that could be uploaded to a police website. Somebody calls when they are on a property that isn't authorized to have a fire pit, there comes your enforcement. Really simple things. But to outright ban every single home and homeowner in the city of Plattsburgh from having a fire in their backyard, which represents family values, right? We've all been through COVID. What have we been doing? We've been staying home. We've been staying home, having fires with our family, roasting marshmallows, playing games in the backyard. To take that away, I think, is just not appropriate. So that's what I wanted to say, and I also have a petition with a little over 100 people that I got in about 2 hours that I'd like to turn in. Thank you very much.
Ira.
Thanks for the opportunity. First of all, thank you for raising this issue. Fire pits have been a controversial issue, at least in the area where I live, for some period of time. And it's not, as I would see, a recreational problem that we have in the city. It's the issue here is balancing public health with recreation. And if you'll bear with me for a few seconds, I wasn't that familiar with a lot of the issues around wood smoke, and so I decided I would come here and speak to this. But you know, wood smoke's been around for centuries. It's something we're all familiar with. Some people like the smell of wood smoke. It reminds them of fall days and winter fires, or evenings around a winter fire. Most people don't realize the smell that you're inhaling is a danger sign. That means that your health is being affected as if they were breathing cigarette smoke. Over time, it's been learned that a great deal about wood smoke and its health effects. All smoke is extremely toxic and a public health hazard. Firemen do not go anywhere around on fire without air packs. They do that because smoke is dangerous. What we know about the dangers of wood smoke applies to wood smoke is chemically active in the body 40 times longer than tobacco smoke. It's 12 times more carcinogenic than tobacco smoke. It lowers the body's defense mechanisms for fighting off infections. Just 1 hour of exposure can lower your immune defenses 25 to 40%. These are all research studies that I'd be glad to give you where they are, but it's not as innocuous a thing as it seems. Much like cigarette smoke, wood smoke contains hundreds of air pollutants that can cause cancer and other health problems. One of these pollutants that is of most concern are fine particulates. And this is where the fire department, I'm sure, could speak to that more than I can. When you breathe air with wood smoke in it, you inhale fine particulates deeply into your lungs. The particulates contain toxic substances that can remain in your lungs for months, causing changes that lead to diseases and structural damage. Most wood smoke particles are smaller in diameter than a human hair. These fine particles can get into cracks around closed windows in a house. So it's not sufficient to say, close your windows and wood smoke won't come in. Last fall, I heard from a number of people in Ward 1 who had COPD and heart health problems and were concerned about the wood smoke they close their windows and it still gets into their home. It can affect everyone, but children under 18, older adults with heart disease, people with asthma, other lung diseases, those that are immune compromised, people with diabetes are the most vulnerable people. So I encourage you to support this ban. But if you don't go with the ban, I would agree with this lady here that you need to take a look at some regulatory issues. First of all, it's the city's responsibility to protect the health of people in the city. We have a lot of vulnerable individuals here living in this city who have health problems. If you go to Ward 1 and you go into a lot of the areas in Ward 1, they don't all have air conditioners in their homes. So when you're in your home at night, you might put a fan in the window to get it cooled off in the summer. That fan's going to suck in every bit of smoke that's around that area into your house. So how do we balance the recreational benefits of fire with the health protections that people in this community need? We need a better option for somebody with COPD that says, look, I can't have a fire pit. That's putting smoke in my house. I don't think there's an enforcement mechanism here that says we have to balance off the COPD individual or some other with an immune compromised health system with the person's right to have a fire pit. And that's the struggle, I think, that I would hope that you will wrestle with when you look at taking action on this. You know, there are a lot of things I would encourage you to kind of partner with the county health department in this because it is a public health issue. And see if they have some ideas that they might want to put on the table as you go forward with this. Thank you.
Thanks, Art. Mr. Perotsky. Sorry? I just didn't hear you from the back. That's all.
Hi, everybody. I live right around the corner and I love where I live and it's, a nice spot. I walk a lot of places. I have an electric car and I'm very involved with the environment and I really like to be good to my community and I don't burn anything that's not, in wood form and normal use. And we enjoy our summers by roasting marshmallows and, having a good time. We're very in control. And I'm very upset about the situation that somebody had wanted to mention to make this even be a thing. Other than, it's been centuries that we've been around fire and enjoyed these things. I don't understand why we would ever want to make this not be part of our lives. We live in the North Country, it's cold, it's a normal thing too, but I don't really do it in the winter. It's more of a summertime thing. Of course you can't because obviously outside you can't. My apologies. Of course. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to take anyone's time away from any of their comments, but I also did call the fire department and because I was upset that this was even a topic of discussion. And they said that I asked if the fire department had ever get calls for complaints. And they said, yes, they do. And they responded. And I said, how often? And they said, quite often. And each time, are they able to put the fire out? And do the people apply? They said, yes. And, I don't know if there's not an issue with, also I asked, has there ever been a fire in the back in someone's property and then caught their building on fire on their premises? And they responded, not to their knowledge. So it's not that it's a safety thing. And there's not been anything else other than that. So I guess that's it. Yeah, I don't know. Thank you.
Can I go first, all right?
Yep.
This has actually nothing to do with this part of it. If you wanted to talk about something else going on.
Okay, this is just the public hearing for the local law. 25. Right, thanks. Both of you? Carla Edwards. Hello.
Hi, Carla Edwards. I live on 14 Woodland Drive and we have a fire pit and I understand the health concerns. But I do know that during COVID especially, we did use it. It was one thing that we could do when the restaurants were closed and, be able to sit out by the fire and to roast marshmallows or just have a conversation was very important and it was a very relaxing thing. Quite honestly, we don't use it in the summer. It's too hot. We use it mostly fall, early winter. And if we're looking at health concerns, I don't see how my burning wood in my fire pit is any different than my neighbor who has a wood fireplace in their house. Because if it's early fall and my windows are open and they're burning wood, I'm smelling it in my house. No different than if I'm outside burning wood. So I think that needs to be looked at as well, that if you're going to ban burning wood, then maybe it needs to be banned inside of the houses as well, which you really can't. But it needs to be looked at because there's not that much of a difference if you're saying it's a health concern. Because my windows are open in the fall, and if my neighbor's cold, a damp night, they've got their fire going, I'm smelling it inside. So that's really not that much different than myself having a fire outside. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. Go for it.
live at 17 Couch, only a couple blocks from downtown, a few blocks from the college. Every house in the center city and most of the city, the houses are only 3, 4, 5 feet apart. I know this is a very sensitive issue. What was it, 2 or 3 years ago? It came in front of the council. You tried to do some regulation with the 25-foot rule. The house that is directly next door, across the street, on the other side of me, is rented to college students. Even if they weren't rented to college students, every time I go to Lowe's, I see somebody else buying a fire pit. The problem, the way that you have presented the revision of this chapter 230, I think is commendable, because it can lead into Cindy's concern and some other residents' concern on how we can have a meeting of the minds. The people that have houses with 2, 3, 1 acre, whatever, apart from other homes and their neighbors, have adequate space not to be a fire risk. I have a hedge that is surrounding my property and the neighbor's property. Last year, every night for 4 hours, I went outside. I had to deal with the college students. We won't even mention that they're college students, had an open fire pit adjacent to my hedge on the grass. The landlord told them that they couldn't have a fire pit next to the house. Well, the house is on one side of the driveway, 2 feet away. And on the other side of the driveway is the hedge and my house 1 foot away. And so they kept trying to move it, but it wasn't a solution. When I called the police department, they said they couldn't enforce it because they said, what would you like me to do? Get a tape measure to see that it's 25 feet away from your hedge? That wasn't the issue. The real issue is that when you have an open pit, even with a screen, there is no way that, I'm sure the fire chief could say that you could have 100% guarantee that any amber wouldn't catch something that is combustible. You have a responsibility to the city, the residents, and the community and visitors that come. And there is threefold. One is the ability for residents to enjoy their home and their private space. 2, to have them be safe and their neighbors be safe, whether that be a risk of fire or a health issue with smoke. Now, my windows, I don't have air conditioning. I open my windows all year round, believe it or not. And it's not just the smell of smoke, but as it has been appropriately said and research showed, it's a danger to our health. Now, having a fireplace in your house, you're making a choice to inhale that in your house. The fact that some smoke might come out of that house, it's not the same direct impact of me being literally here and the fire pit being here and me having that come into my home. So it is a balance, but you have in the code, from what I read, that somebody can apply for a permit through regulatory procedures to get a permit to have an open fire pit in their backyard or some recreational. Okay, well, that's something that you could look at. And then, as Cindy said, you could then analyze with the fire department and other regulatory agencies if that's going to be a safety risk to their neighbors. I think you need to also think about and have written in the code that it should be, you should be able to have your neighbors or the neighbors that surround that property have some input, because there is going to be a direct effect on them whether an open fire pit is permitted on that property. It's definitely a safety risk. It's not like we're living in the country. There are some homes like Cindy's that have enough open space, but the majority of houses, even on Coben, are very close together. And you're asking me you want to recreate outside and enjoy an open fire pit, but I'm subject to that house. And my concern, I didn't sleep half the nights because I was concerned my hedge was going to catch on fire. So it's a real issue that needs to be addressed. And I think the way to approach it is to ban it citywide and then have a permit system in place in the code where people could apply with input from their neighbors and abide by New York State regulations with fire and other health safety risks that could be mitigated without having a permit issued to somebody that would then have a risk. it's two-way. It's not just the homeowner enjoying their space, it's also the neighbors being able to enjoy their home. It is a tough decision, but I think you have to go with a citywide ban and a permit in place with regulations on how to allow exceptions. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Is there, Sue Moore?
Good evening.
Hello.
I'm going to read from my script. I have lived in the city for 11 years and have never had a fire on my property. However, I live in a neighborhood that is all rental properties except for mine and the house across the street. There have been fires on the north, south, and west side of my property that do not use smoke arresters. They're left unattended, no fire pit, just had the fire on the ground, burned cardboard on the windiest days. The fires are not 25 feet from a structure. They do not extinguish when they are done and have ashes all over our vehicles. Some say just report the abusers and don't spoil it for everyone. I don't know my neighbors. As I said, they are all rental properties. People come and go. How do I know how someone is going to react if I approach them or retaliate if I report it and they are told your neighbor complained? If there is anyone here today that wrote some of the nasty comments on social media about the proposed fire ban and about Councilor Gibbs, how do I know if you may be my neighbor? If you live next door, would that be the reaction I would get if I had a complaint about your fire? In the past, I reported a fire and noise next door as it was well past midnight. And when the police came, they didn't say anything to them about the fire, just told them to keep the noise down and said the neighbors complained. The tenant later asked me if I had turned them in. The police, fire, building inspector, whoever responds to these complaints needs to be more discreet. They should just say it doesn't matter how or why they are there. The point is it's a violation. I tried a different tack when we had a large open fire pit behind us, which was put together by tenants right behind the garage on that property, less than 5 feet from the garage. By the way, in most cases, the property owners don't know what's going on their property. These fires were the largest, with flames sometimes over 10 feet high. I called the property owner. He in turn contacted his property manager to disassemble the fire pit. The property manager in turn told the tenants that had built the pit that there was a complaint and he had to have specified my house because I could hear the woman complaining and it was directed at me. So my point is, it isn't as simple as just report the abusers. I've seen comments that say you should be able to do whatever you want on your property. We not only live in a densely populated area in the city, we live in a society of rules. And depending on where you live, there are more rules and regulations than others. Unlike comments I have seen on social media saying, if you don't like fires, then move. I'm not going to say you should move if you want to have fires. People who have valid complaints shouldn't be villainized. People have safety and health concerns and they should be taken seriously. We all have to coexist here. It's not just about what I want or what you want. On June 2nd, I sent an email to the mayor and councilors voicing my concerns about fires. I expressed some of the concerns I've just mentioned. I also said that the reality is that some people are careless and clueless and just don't care about the people around them. After seeing some of the comments on social media recently, I don't think I missed the mark on that. I also suggested that maybe it would be beneficial to have something put in the Press Republican, the Sun, and on Monday with the mayor stating what the local law was, relating what the problems have been, and letting people know who to contact to report a problem. This didn't happen. Instead, there was a post put on social media of the current code and a question asking people if the city should ban all recreational fires. There was no context about what had been discussed at recent meetings, no information about possible improvements or solutions to the current law. I was disappointed to see that, as I knew the way it was worded was going to inflame a certain group of people. I didn't get a social media campaign going or petitions or lobby people to send emails or attend the meeting tonight. I just came here to share my thoughts and experiences on recreational fires. I'd like to mention that Burlington has a complete ban on fires and most municipalities have some sort of recreational fire codes. So this is not unusual or unique to our city to have some sort of rules regarding this. I don't know if this will pass, but if it doesn't, this shouldn't be the end of the conversation. I think we can and need to make what we have better. Someone on social media posted fire guidelines from another city that has some good ideas in it, and I would like to see and discuss some of those. And I'd be willing to get together with you if you want to go over any of them. One last thing. I have heard the view that we haven't had a house fire caused by fire pits. All I can say is we've been damn lucky. Thank you.
Anyone else who would like to speak on this, please?
Hello, my name is Scott Smith. I live in Ward 5. I just found out about this yesterday. And I've never been to a common council meeting before. The concern that I have is that I don't know any information about this. I'm the kind of person who is more of a ask questions, figure it out, look at the entire forest for the trees. So what I've seen today is people coming up and just giving monologues or speeches, and I work a 9-to-5 job. So I don't really have time, especially with the minimal amount of notice that I had. Is it possible for me to ask questions?
Generally, in a public hearing, we're here to listen, not necessarily engage or respond. Every single person up here is an adult. They can respond to you if they would like. I would rather there not be an ongoing dialogue or debate about the issue, considering that it's been out in the public for about 2 weeks now. So you can ask questions. If people want to respond, they can. Again, they're all adults. I don't want it to get into a long, drawn out conversation and debate, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
I do agree there needs to be more education. I came from Vermont. I've lived here for 8 years now. 11 years. I've been a homeowner on Bailey Avenue for the past 8 years. This past Christmas, I purchased a fire pit for my partner. COVID has hit everyone hard, emotionally, physically. At one point at work, we were no longer required to wear masks, and it felt like a great relief. And then Delta variant came by, masks had to go back on again. This constant back and forth is emotionally straining. So having the fire pit, which we use very, very sparsely, maybe in the past 2-3 months, we've used it 3 times. We are responsible individuals. We are respectful of our community. We've had conversations with our neighbors about issues that are occurring in real time in our small little block of the world. I don't understand why this has become an issue. I just don't know, because I haven't been part of the conversation. There's been no education, there's been no discussion, to my knowledge, and I've just happened to stumble across this. So I do not know why. I did read, and I'm a somewhat of a logical, analytical individual. So when I was reading that report on what the actual 230 was, chapter 230, sections 1, 2, and 3, found it a little bit comical. I like to think outside the box. Section 3, portion A, open fires are prohibited. Sorry, section B, small recreational fires are prohibited. Small recreational fires are described as within outside burning of wood. We had the discussion earlier whether chimney smoke does affect other individuals. Fire pit, does it affect other individuals? So in my mind, thinking outside of the box is, I'm not allowed to have an open fire outside. Am I allowed to have an open fire inside? That's the question I'm posing. So I have a garage. it's not really smart to be putting an open pit inside of a garage. But based on the wording, I could get around it with a loophole. But just inside my garage, have the garage doors open. And I think that would be more dangerous. And I really don't think people are gonna do that. But if they're spoken to and they're told, given this information, they may come to that conclusion. And I'm not advocating for that whatsoever. It's dangerous. That's just me thinking outside the box. So maybe that wording could be fixed. Every person I've spoken to at work and for friends, the very first question is why? I guess it is that we just don't understand why it would be so important to create a local law in order to restrict individuals on their own property from doing something that makes them happy, gives them a little bit of a stress release, especially when people are responsible. Like anything else, moderation, responsibility. Because as you had said earlier, we are all adults. So my vote on a local law for banning outside fires and fire pits is a definite no. The other section concerning open fires, that is a completely different thing to me. We have a small recreational fire at fire pit, and that is what affects me. And as I had said, my vote on this would be a definite no. But if the discussion continues and we can figure out a way to address all of our concerns brought forth today and possibly on social media, I think that would be the best for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to make a comment pertaining to the local law P5? Please.
Hello, guys. Here Valley, live up on Beacon Street, Ward 4. I've been following this a little bit, hearing a lot of comments here. Just a couple points I want to make. First, I'll come right out. I'm an advocate of an outdoor fire pit. My wife is a nurse at the hospital. She's been through a lot of crap this year. Being able to go home, sit outside with my 5-year-old daughter, unwind a little bit, really helped her a lot. Taking away one of those little niceties she has after saving probably some of your loved ones, it's kind of a nice thing. Second, you state many times that, well, I've heard several people say this, that, we have a law that's not enforced, then what changes it, right? We just put another law in place and then it's also not enforced. It doesn't make any sense. So instead of, the few people who are doing the right thing, I'm lucky, I have a very large lot, 150 by 150, it's fully fenced in, it's nice and private. I have that luxury. But I also still adhere to the 25-foot rule. I don't burn trash, I don't burn garbage. I buy hardwood from places like Stewart's. I started with kindling that falls from my various ash trees. I don't understand why you would think that harming all of us who follow the rules is the right thing to do. Why do we not actually enforce the policy we have in place? There is a law that probably several of you voted on years ago that put these laws in place. If you don't like your neighbors burning whatever they're burning, you simply make a complaint. If that complaint is not acted upon, you continue up the chain. If the individual officer didn't do it, maybe you head down to the police station, you speak to his commanding officer. You make a formal complaint with the mayor's office. I'm sure that would get some traction. The idea that these things come up seemingly out of the blue is extremely frustrating. I think that's what really gets me. Is you're a tech guy, I'm a tech guy, work IT. It's super simple to just create a poll, put in your address, give an answer. Instead of letting a few people decide the fate for all of us, why can't we all get our voices out there? Meetings like this at 5 p.m., they're great for the few of us that can attend. Not all of us can attend. If it's a handicap or a work, or maybe there's children, I'm lucky. My wife is staying at home to watch my 5-year-old right now so that I can come down here and I can speak to you guys. I just think this is the wrong way to do it. Force the current law if people have an issue with the fire that their neighbors have. Don't forget too, we also have to adhere to the countywide fire law. So if I heard somebody say about embers floating and catching something on fire, if there's a no burn, that applies to the city of Plattsburgh as well. If there's a no burn for people in moors, I also have to adhere to that. You know, it's not like droughts are localized in something like Clinton County. We're not that big. So I implore you to, even if you want to delay the vote until we can have some sort of poll, but don't hurt the people that are following the rules and enjoy it and have the space for the few bad actors. Enforce the current law. If it doesn't get enforced, inquire why it's not getting enforced, and then move on to something broader if we need to. Somebody quoted no house fires from an outdoor fire pit. I'm sure that's true. Most people are smart. House fires are usually a kitchen. And honestly, the wood smoke smell is far worse in autumn and winter than it is in the summertime, even with all my windows being open because I don't really have air conditioners. Just sorry to ramble here, but I implore you, please get some more public comment. I believe this has been the only forum for public comment. Maybe I'm incorrect there. It's the only one I can find. Do a poll, do something. Heck, just put in like forums at local grocery stores or something. Just get more input. That's all I'm asking. And thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Is there anybody in attendance that would like to speak to local law P5? Anybody out there? No. Okay, seeing none, I will at this point have a motion, take a motion to close the public hearing. A motion by Councilor Bob, second by Councilor Kelly. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The public hearing is now closed. At this time, I'd like to call the 2019-2021 regular meeting to common council to order. Please rise and join me with the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Carlin, will you please conduct a roll call?
Mayor Rosenberg.
Here.
Council Canales.
Here.
Council Kelly.
Here.
Council Gibbs.
Here.
Council Talon.
Here.
Council Bob.
Here.
Council Moore.
Here. All councilors have received a copy of the minutes of the August 5th, 2021 regular meeting. If there are no additions, deletions, or corrections, I'll now take a motion to accept the minutes as presented. Councilor Canales, second by Councilor Bob. Any changes, alterations, deletions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. I will now recognize those in the audience who wish to share their thoughts and concerns with the council on any topic. Please come to the podium to be acknowledged. When called upon, we ask that you please state your legal name and address for the record in accordance with the organizational rules of order. All speakers are given 5 minutes to address the council. Please.
Council. My name is Amanda Dagley. I'm a local business owner. I in fact own the radio station across the street, and I've been a resident of the city of Plattsburgh since 2001. I'm also a pedestrian, and I'm also a pain in the butt. Every day I park in the city lot because I'm trying to do my best to keep away the congestion of downtown Plattsburgh. There's a lot of parking issues. This is not new. Every day I go to the crosswalk, and almost every day I am almost hit by a car. So frequently that it's become such a joke that on my radio show in the morning, I will sometimes play the theme to Frogger and display what has been happening. One morning I sat on the corner and I counted 6 cars running the stop sign, almost hitting people. I also one time a few years ago watched a young woman that I grabbed like this to pull her out of the way because a guy was whipping around the corner, cell phone in one hand going, "Oh, my bad," and almost hit her. This has been going on for years at this particular crosswalk. And recently I decided, I need to finally say something. I had a private conversation with Chris about this. And when Chris and I were having a cup of coffee, we saw an old man almost get hit in the crosswalk. A little old man who was making his way slowly across the crosswalk, and out of nowhere, this chick just went, she slammed on the brakes. I also sit in a window. I view the crosswalk in front of City Hall Place more than any of you probably ever have. I'm in that building 40 plus hours a week and I see all. Every day I see someone almost hit in the crosswalk across the street from me. And I decided that when I found out a friend of mine actually was hit in the crosswalk, and was told that because there are no cameras, there's nothing that you can do. I'm very disappointed. What do we need to do at that crosswalk to make sure nobody gets hit? I mean, if last time I checked, I'm going to refer to the police officers. What isn't that what you're supposed to do? You're supposed to stop at a stop sign, right? At least to a count of 3. So if I'm seeing this every single day, and I'm there usually from 9 o'clock in the morning till sometimes 7, 8 o'clock at night, if I'm seeing this every day in those working hours, what is happening when I'm not there? And I would like to step away, but I would like to also say, please consider, there should be, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a city planner, I don't know anything about this. I'm just a human being that doesn't want to be run over, nor do I want to witness somebody being run over in front of me, because I don't think that's what we want in the city of Plattsburgh. You want to bring people to downtown Plattsburgh, that's great. But if they're traveling and they have to end up at CVPH because they've been run over, come on, is that really what we want for downtown Plattsburgh? And as a business owner, I find it extremely discouraging. And since I've also spoken to other business owners on my street alone, at least one other business owner has also almost been hit in that same crosswalk. So I would like to step down, but say thank you very much for your time and your consideration. And I hope that we can do something about the crosswalks, especially at the corner of Bridge and Durkee and across the street from my building at City Hall Place in Trinity. Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda. Anyone else? Hello.
Good evening, Council. My name is Ahan Azasil, and I live right down here on Bridge Street. And I'm unfortunately the friend Amanda was talking about. Just this Monday, I was crossing the corner of Durkee and Bridge, and there was a young woman in her car who seemed a little bit unsure about the situation, and which didn't stir me with confidence. But I decided to go because, hey, it's a stop sign and I have the right of way. So, of course, as I'm going, I have my energy drink in one hand, and I see the person right across coming this way, throwing their hands up saying, stop, stop. And that just kind of threw a red flag up in my head. And just by bare instinct, I just decided to kind of leap back just in time, because the person just came right at me and hit my elbow, knocked the can out of my hand, hit my knee. Thankfully, I jumped out with enough time to still kind of be on my feet, and the person just took right off. Now, did I call the police right away? No, I didn't. That was definitely my mistake, and I own that. But I was honestly flooded with so much adrenaline, shock, and I mean, it took me about at least an hour to call them. And what I was told was basically, there's not much that could be done because I didn't get hit on the right street that had cameras, and which was kind of discouraging. I mean, some of you know me. I love this town. I love this community, and I think that everybody deserves to be safe, especially in one of the most trafficked streets on the corner of Durkee and Bridge right there. Several businesses are around there. People are constantly flowing in and out. And I mean, I don't know the answer. I mean, sometimes street lights help, sometimes they don't. But I think at least some sort of camera, something should be up there, just because of that situation that I told you about, where accountability needs to be had. All right, thank you.
Yep. Anyone else to address the council on any topic? Hello.
Good afternoon. My name is Steve Brody. I live at 156 Beekman Street, Plattsburgh, New York. I thank God for today. I thank it for the chance. As you know, I was a counselor and I voted. And 99% of all my votes, I never regretted. There was one vote that I did regret. And that was voting against, at that time, it was called the SRO, School Resource Officer. And it was also now the youth advocate. I'm actually very for that position. And I regret voting against it. And I have ever since. So I thank God for the opportunity to say that it should be there and our schools need it. Mr. Kelly and I had a conversation one time. We were joking around and we were talking about the safety of the city and the internet and having to get the company right. And I said to you in the back, I said, sounds like you're making a speech for the SRO. And he just said, what? But the point is, I would die for my children. There isn't a parent that wouldn't die for their children. There's nothing I wouldn't do for the safety of my children. And that includes the SRO or the youth safety advocate. But more than that, that officer can also be an outreach program for the children. There was a member of the council painted him very negative and the gateway to jail and everything else. But there's a flip side. He's your friend. He's the guy that sits at the table and tells the corny jokes. I surveyed my children. They had nothing wrong with him at all. They didn't feel intimidated. They thought he gave corny jokes. He's a nice guy. I don't want my children to grow up to be afraid of the police. I want my children to grow up to respect the law, respect the police. And I believe that the youth safety advocate is the position to do that, to be a gateway for positive waves and positive enforcement and creativity. Now, originally when I voted no, I said, well, the county can do it anyways and save the city the money and everything. Well, it turns out that the county charges $30,000 more to the school district than the city pays. Second, the county brings in a full-fledged uniform. Very militaristic. And I understand that when the city does it, it's a more passive, easy way to be there. And I feel that's important. We don't want our children or people to fear the police. We want them to like them, to respect them, and at the same time, respect the law and have a friend that they can go to when something's wrong at home, or when they see something's wrong, they can say, I can go to Officer Wolf, or I can go here, and I can talk to them. Or maybe the officer through his training may see a child that's being abused and take it to the next step for the child's defense. I thank you for your time.
Thanks, sir. Anyone else in the audience who wishes to address the council on any topic?
I wasn't going to speak because I missed the ability, the time that there was a committee on bicycle and how we can improve the city for bicycling. And I bicycle and walk all over the city, and it's very costly to repave Broad Street, repave Cornelia Street, repave some of the main arteries. But I'll tell you, every time I bike from Couch Street down to my other building on Hamilton Street, and that's now frequently a frequented bicycle route because of the bike path and the recreation trail, half of my contents of my bike come out of my bag and onto the street. I don't know what the committee has come up with as a solution. It's, usually you would create bike lanes to have at least one section of that street be able to be traversed by people that are on bicycles safely. And that might be an easier way to do this without eliminating parking on both sides. Maybe just have one side of the street, have a double lane. I lived in Montreal for 7 years. I biked all over Montreal. And I'm telling you that Plattsburgh is not a bicycle-friendly city because of our streets. I often have to go onto sidewalks so I can bike safely without getting hit by a car or getting my contents of my bike and my body reveled up to the point that, I almost fall off my bike. So I would ask the council to maybe publicize the committee again. I don't know if they've already formulated solutions to the problem, but we are trying to make Plattsburgh a more friendly, walkable and bicycle friendly city. And we have some terrific areas to go bicycle to, and we just can't get there because we have these impediments in our city streets. So I ask the council to, work on getting the committee to advertise more and find out what the solution is. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the, yes, please. Welcome back.
Hi. So I was telling you before, I like to go for walks a lot. Go for a walk. Just go up the street, go down the street here. Try sitting some weird crosswalks. Okay, hit the buttons. They don't work. There's no noise. There's no noise audibly. There should be a noise at every traffic light. I go around, the SUNY Plattsburgh had the noise. It's gone now. I don't know what happened now, but there's obvious safety issues. If someone gets killed in this city because you guys didn't take care of the basic necessities, like go down the street, I live on Peru Street, and you head up towards the street and you go just, towards G&G. There's a big city sidewalk heat. I tripped over it on the 4th of July. I almost hurt myself. There was a cop walking the street to stop the traffic. Just, you got to go out and walk. And if you got it, I can't believe no one notices these things. It's unbelievable. That's it. Thank you.
Yes, please.
Carla Edwards, 14 Woodland Drive. I walk every day. And 3 years ago, this month, I actually fell going down Oak Street, passed out, came to fire department, police department there. Tripped, there was a big lip in the sidewalk. So I didn't go in the ambulance. My husband brought me to the hospital after. Everything was fine. I was okay. Sore, but fine. Noticed the very next day that they had gone and they had graded down the lip and put some cement there. This year, January 24th, or sorry, June 24th, walking up Stetson in front of 9 Stetson. Again, I was walking at 6:15 in the morning, was by myself, tripped on that, could hear my husband saying to me, just breathe, don't pass out, was able to call him. He came and picked me up. I did send a message that I believe you did, was forwarded to you. Your secretary got it. To my knowledge, nothing has been done there. The sidewalks in the city are dangerous. As a matter of fact, I had an MRI on my wrist yesterday, and just before we left to come here, I got a call from Dr. Weber's office that said, I've got a broken bone in my wrist from that fall. And they said, I don't know if there's anything that can be done now because it's been the length of time. But I did go to the doctors. They did an x-ray. Nothing was wrong. I still can't bear weight on my wrist. So they sent me for an MRI yesterday. I broke my wrist falling on the sidewalks. I always used to say when I was driving down the road, why are these people walking in the road? The roads are better than the sidewalks. When I walk now, most of the time I walk in the road, especially if it's a wide road, because I've fallen twice on the sidewalks in the city. They really need to be looked at. There's some very dangerous spots. And I thank God that I didn't pass out, because this was the scary part. It was 6:15 in the morning and nobody was around. I saw, while I was waiting for my husband to come and get me, I saw the house, 9 Stetson, open their door, and they probably, it was early, reached their hand out to get their newspaper and bring the newspaper back in. They didn't see me. And I'm laying on the sidewalk in front of their house. So it's concerning. And I really, hope that this gets, some thought goes into this, and some of these sidewalks are looked at before somebody really gets hurt seriously. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to address the council on any topic? Hello.
We keep these on now, or
please, if you don't mind.
Okay. Good evening, members of the council and Mr. Mayor. My name is Charles Scott. I wanted to come in. I came before the council last year about this time regarding the school resource officer position and address the council. But I thought it would be important that I came in again, seeing that we have the mayor and some new councilors as well. So I basically wanted to give, talk a little bit about what my role was in the schools. I held the position for 2 years. What I did do, but just as importantly, what I did not do. And I understand that the program that is being voted on tonight is a different program, and there are different aspects to it. But I thought it was important that the new council members and the mayor got a clear picture of what I did in the schools. I was assigned to the 3 elementary schools in the district, Molmont, Oak, and former Bailey. I picked a school at random to go into every day. I would be at the school at arrival, pick a different school. I was outside almost every morning, greeting parents, greeting students. Throughout the day, I assisted with numerous things. I would attend school assemblies that were in support of the students that were getting awards for different things. I attended after-school activities in the evening at Oak Street. I would be outside, walking around on the playground, talking to kids, seeing how their day was going. I would go sit in the lunchroom with students, eat lunch with them, see how their day was going. I tried to really have a relationship with the students of someone that they felt comfortable with and weren't seeing. I was not a police officer, but a school resource officer, but not seeing that person in a negative light. It was a positive interaction. I'll give you one example. I had a student at Oak Street School who was a 5th grader. His teacher came to me during the school year and said that he wanted to become a police officer when he got older. So I went and talked to him about that. And then I actually took him out, let him sit in one of the marked police cars, took some pictures of him in it, and he really loved it. So at the end of the school year, he was going to the middle school. His principal told me that he was having some he was nervous. It's a big step from going to 5th grade into the middle school. So the last day of school, I went and took one of those photos. I blew it up for him and I got a frame for it. And I gave it to him in his classroom. And the young man literally cried. He was so happy. He gave me a hug and I told him if he ever needed anything, even though he was at the middle school, that he could reach out to me. But that's the interaction that I strive for with the students. And I know there was some concerns, and I know Counselor Kelly from the last meeting, and I believe there was a similar article read from last year's meeting, basically addressing school resource officers. I would like to add that, although that I'm sure there's factual basis to that information, I really don't think that what was said in that article has really much relevance or pertains to our school district in this city. It may pertain to a large metropolitan area where the school resource officers are police officers dressed in full uniform and have arrest powers and act as police officers. That's not the role as this program had. The other thing that I wanted to address was, I know the notion of school to prison pipeline. And again, I wanted to emphasize that I don't think that pertains at all to what's happening in the school district here with the SRO program or that would happen with this new program. If anything, my presence in the schools greatly decreased police presence or uniform presence in the school. There's many times where there was an issue with a student or something else that I would talk with the administrator or a counselor or one of the psychologists. And I would say, we don't need to call a uniformed police officer. We don't need to call Officer Wolf in, or we can handle this in-house in school. So it actually decreased greatly the amount of time that uniformed officers were on school campus. So, I mean, I just wanted to kind of touch on base, like what I do and what I don't do. I don't make arrests. I'm not a police officer. I don't enforce school rules. It's completely up to the school staff. I'm not involved in discipline of any students. I'm basically a person that is there to develop positive relationships with the students and be somebody that they can come to, and I can, if they need help, I can go work with the administration or the counselors, teachers, and I can say, why don't we go this route? Why don't we look for these resources? So that's basically what I was doing. And I know there was also a question of what we dressed like. Were we wear a badge? So I wore this tonight to show you, this is the uniform that I had in the schools. Pair of khakis, a polo shirt, and that's it. Sometimes I had a jacket that said the same thing on it. Now I understand that this no program obviously wouldn't say school resource officer, would say, you know, the child advocate position, safety position. But this is what I wore. I was not walking around as a sheriff's department does. They're in full uniform with outer tactical vests on, full duty belt. This is what I wore every day. So I wanted to thank you for your time, and I really hope that you all give this program a chance and let us show you what we can do. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience who'd like to address the council on any topic? Yes, please.
Mr. Mayor, how you doing?
How are you?
Council, how you doing?
Okay.
I want to address about the open burning ban in the city of Plattsburgh. I wanted to get some feedback from the counselors on their stances of that coming up as an issue. What does the wards actually think about the banning that Mrs. Gibbs is bringing forth to the city of Plattsburgh?
We're gonna have a vote shortly, so if you want to stick around for the vote, you can find out.
Okay, well, I've been here for 20 years as a city resident. I've been burning for that whole period of time of just wood that's normally in the backyard. Being that social media seems to drive the media right now, that I haven't seen any outcry of it on Facebook, Instagram, of anything through the local part of Plattsburgh. So I'm not really sure where the intent is coming from. But if the open burning is becoming a problem for some reason, which I'm not sure maybe the fire department will address on how many have been caused by open burning. But my opinion is that even if it were being regulated and even being permitted, instead of just abolishing it, period, would probably be a better source of it. Because if it is permitted, then you have to have the individuals actually registering through a permit through the process of City Hall. And it would actually drive revenue in the city for people, and to regulate better for the city council to oversee it. Because this way, if anything does arise, you'll have the permit person that actually applied for it. I think you guys should take in consideration that a lot of people do this in your wards, and you probably have gotten a lot of complaints. I know that I've spoken to Jacob Avery. There's a few of I've actually tried to call, but I didn't get a response back. But in my opinion, you have a lot of people that do this in Plattsburgh. You have a lot of communities that are up here that are local businesses that do it. Whether it's Richards, I know that they have a petition out against this. And I know that I've spoken to Buster's. They do this on the weekends when they have clientele there. So it's actually going to hurt your businesses as well too. That does draw people in. Furthermore, that during Christmas time, when you usually have your events down here, you actually have them out here, which draws people in too. And you do open burning right out in front of City Hall during Christmas time. It's been doing that for years, and people as a draw to come down and do it. So I think you should really take in consideration and not ban it, unless you're thinking of the interest of actually permitting it to make revenue on it. So that's all I have to say. Thank you, council.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience who'd like to address the council on any topic? Yes.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Francine Francis. I'm a resident of Ward 1, and I'd like to speak a little bit on the community resource officer in school. Now, I'm not a Plattsburgh native, but I did live in an area where having a community resource officer did actually prevent school shootings. So very grateful for that, right? We also live in a time where the police is painted in a negative limelight, and we have an opportunity to here bridge the gap between our students and our local community resource officers. Now, I'm so glad. Where'd he go? Homie that went outside, right? Very glad that he came, that very appreciative of you, sir. Thank you for your service, and to our students, thank you very much. It is necessary for our students to understand that there are yet officers and resources that are able to protect and defend. They're called first responders for a reason. Their jobs are to respond first. It is necessary for our students to be able to see that and then have that in their minds when the limelight is now painting police officers in a negative light, in a negative frame and in a negative context. Now, speaking as an African-American woman of color who's not from this country, this is necessary. And reason being is because we are at odds and ends consistently, right? It is always either or. So with that being said, it is necessary for students to see an officer that is there for them, to be able to be a resource for them without the fear associated. It is helping bridge the gap. And we would be remiss if we begin to continue the perpetuation of a generation who's consistently living in fear. Not all officers are bad. Granted, the ones who are need to be held accountable. Yes. However, it is absolutely necessary that for us to be instrumental in the change associated with our children, and that begins with bridging the gap. And that absolutely needs to happen. I yield the floor.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else in the audience who wish to address the council on any topic? All right, seeing none, we'll now go to committee reports. Each standing committee is chaired by a counselor, and I will call upon the chairperson of each committee, starting with City Operations, Councilor Canales.
Nothing to report this week.
Finance Community Development, we had a pretty lengthy meeting covering a number of topics, both on the financial side covering the beach implementation plan presented by Saratoga Associates, and a number of other concerning issues with SRO or the youth safety advocate, as well as a number of other items. Items 197 and 199 are on the agenda tonight at the recommendation of the committee and report. City Infrastructure Councilman.
I didn't have anything special to report.
Okay, thanks, sir. Public Safety Councilor Gibbs.
Yes, we had our scheduled public safety meeting this Monday. Our live stream wasn't working, so we actually did have a lengthy discussion about a number of issues. We discussed the police chief search. We talked about the crossing guard program. We got an update from our building inspector on tree reports, permit issues, rental registry. There are a number of items on the agenda tonight that were forwarded out of the public safety committee. We had a very lengthy discussion with the fire chief regarding EMS revenue, expenses and reports. And of course, we have the youth safety advocate that position that is on the agenda tonight for vote. That's all.
Yep. We'll now move on to liaison reports. Plattsburgh Public Library, Councilor Bob.
Got a couple things. Update now, all staff and visitors to the library are going to have to be wearing masks again. So that's effective immediately. Summer reading is over. Kids in Plattsburgh read 52,000 minutes. So that's pretty awesome. And the library also received a grant from the New York State Library Construction Fund for $298,000 to replace the roof and repave the driveway and install security cameras. Their share is $100,000 and they're putting together bidding documents. We've got a board meeting coming up on Tuesday. And that's all.
Plattsburgh Municipal Lighting Department, Councilor Kelly.
Nothing to report at this time.
Mr. Schneller, any staff member reports?
No need for executive from my perspective.
There are no special committee reports. I'll now entertain a motion to approve payrolls of various city departments for the week ending August 18th, 2021 in the amount of $54,804.29. Councilor Kelly, second by Councilor Pop. Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yeah.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibbs?
Yes.
Council Talon? Yes. Councilor Fox? Yep. Council Moore?
Yes.
Carry. I'll now entertain a motion to approve the bills audited by the Common Council for the weeks ending August 20th, 2021 in the amount of $912,610.35. Councilor Kelly, second by Councilor Canales. Thank you. Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibbs?
Yes.
Council Talon? Yes. Council Bob? Yes. Council Moore?
Yes.
Carried. Before voting on the following resolutions, I'll note that the majority of the resolutions have been thoroughly discussed by the appropriate committees and department heads. We're now taking action on these items in large part due to the recommendation of the committee. Out of respect of your time and at the request of Councilor Gibbs, we're now moving item 7.214 to the front of the line. Ms. Carmen, will you please read the titles of the resolutions to be acted upon?
Item 7.214, adoption of local law P-5 of 2021, a local law amending chapter 230, sections 1, 2, and 3 of the city code of the city of Plattsburgh. This local law shall take effect immediately upon approval by the mayor and filing with the New York Secretary of State, the entire text of which has been distributed to and read by the members of the Common Council is hereby enacted without the reading thereof, and a copy of said local law is made part of the minutes of this meeting.
Motion by Councilor Gibbs, second by Councilor Canales. Discussion.
So since I introduced this, I'd like to first of all thank members of the audience who came tonight to speak during the local law hearing, and I really appreciate your involvement in this and your interest in the issue and your feedback. I think that community involvement in an issue of any issue is so important. So I really want to thank the public for showing up. I don't really have any additional comments. The Press Republican did interview me yesterday, and Mackenzie did a very thorough job of the comments that I had to have that I had on this issue. So if any of the members of the public are interested, where any additional things that I had to say, you can find that there. I realize that this may or may not pass tonight, but I do really appreciate the council considering this vote and all of your feedback regarding that. So thank you.
Any further discussion?
Well, I just had one comment. Listen to what the comments tonight. And I think however it turns out, I think we have more work to do. That we need to ensure that the safety, but not at the expense of
destroying everybody's good times, but I think I like the idea of exploring permits beyond this, whether it passes or not.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, just to kind of piggyback off that, I really like Cindy's suggestion about, possibly getting a map, that could let us literally look at the properties and kind of say, okay, these properties can't have it. So if the fires are happening here, it's illegal. And figuring out a way that enforcement can happen so that people, when they do call, don't just get an answer like, there's nothing we can do for you. There's got to be some sort of system, whether it be warning, then ticketing, whatever it may be that we continue to develop, that can help people feel more empowered.
Councilor Talon.
And I think it goes to say, just maybe it's time for some public service announcements on what the rules are exactly, so people know what rules they need to follow. I think we could probably maybe have some fun doing some videos, Facebook, something
Little
like that.
infographics that people
Yeah.
can share on Facebook.
Councilor Kelly.
I'd just like to thank Councilor Gibbs for spearheading this effort. It's brought on a great discussion about fires and the problems and benefits of fires. And it forced me to go back and read the local law we passed about 3 years ago, I think it was. That was a good law. It said that you have to have a fire pit no wider or longer than 3 feet. Can't be more than 3 feet high. A fire can't be more than 3 feet high. So all of those seem like great additions to our laws at the time they were passed. And I was so happy back then that Councilor Casper spearheaded that effort. And just like now, it brought discussion. And I was so heartened by the fact that many people said, yes, we responded to that law that was written 3 years ago. We did make sure that our fire pit was 25 feet away from the property. We did make sure that we had a fire hose or a fire extinguisher close by. And they also said that if neighbors complained, they responded. And I think that's really the most important thing we can learn from this. Listen to your neighbors. If your neighbors are telling you that they don't like the fire or it's somehow problematic for them, then find out a way to maybe have a fire in a different part of the yard or something to help your neighbors. That's probably the biggest lesson we could learn from this is, it doesn't have to be the city enforcing everything. It can be individuals talking to each other, and I hope that will continue. And don't be afraid to talk to your neighbors. Most people in our city are very decent people and will listen to you. Thank you.
Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
No.
Counselor Kelly?
No.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
No.
Counselor Buck?
No.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Defeated.
Item 7.196, authorize the mayor to sign a change order to manage security services agreement.
Motion by Councilor, sorry. Okay. Motion by Councilor Canales, second by Councilor Bott because she was saying goodbye to everybody. Discussion. Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Buck?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Carried.
Item 7.197, authorize budget transfer general and rec complex funds overtime.
Motion by Councilor Canales, second by Councilor Bott. Discussion. Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Buck?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Carried.
Item 7.198, authorize budget transfer general and rec complex funds gym repairs.
Motion by Councilor Canales, second. Councilor Kelly, discussion. Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Buck?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Carried.
Item 7.199, authorize revision to the capital expenditure plan adopted December 23rd, 2014.
Motion by Councilor Canales, second. Councilor Bott, discussion.
Yes, can you remind me what this one is?
This is an increase to the windows improvement for the asbestos
Oh,
abatement
right,
and
right, right.
monitoring.
Sorry.
Yep, no problem. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
yes,
Item 7.200, authorized consultant contract for revival of city's revolving loan fund program, phase 2.
Motion by Counselor Canales, second by Counselor Bach. Discussion. Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
yes,
Carried.
Item 7.201, authorized extension of negotiating period with Skyward Hospitality for Harborside Development.
Motion by Counselor Bach, second by Counselor Canales. Discussion. Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
yes,
Good at that. Carried.
Item 7.202, authorize approval of visual clearance inspection services for City Hall windows.
Motion.
asbestos abatement.
Sorry, motion by Counselor Bob, second by Counselor Canales. Discussion. Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
yes,
Carried.
Item 7.203, authorize approval of contract for abatement and replacement of City Hall windows.
Motion by Counselor Canales, second. Counselor Bob. Discussion. Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
yes,
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
yes,
Carried.
Item 7.204, authorize approval of artwork installation from the city marina to Betty Little Arts Park forming the Bassburg Art Trail.
Motion by Counselor Talon, second by Counselor Bob. Discussion. Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
yes,
Carried.
Item 7.205, approval of the creation of the City of Plattsburgh Housing Advisory Committee.
Motion by Counselor Talon, second by Counselor Bob. Discussion. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Item 7.206, approval to authorize contract for youth safety advocate, PCSD.
Motion by Counselor Gibbs, second by Counselor Canales. Discussion.
I'd like to, oh, I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Sorry, Counselor Gibbs, before you get into that, I'm aware that this is a sensitive issue. It's always been a sensitive issue locally, nationally. It's personal, it's public, right? But I'm going to ask the council and the public to please just keep it on the up, okay? Keep it civil. Let's have a civil discussion.
No, I was just gonna say thank
Thank
you. Mr. Scott, I never met you before. Thank you for coming to speak tonight. And you're right, this has been in the past and in the present, a very heavy issue. I feel very confident in this renewed approach. I'm very impressed with the contract that's been placed before us for approval. It's different spirit, different intent. I feel very comfortable doing this. We have a strong management team down in the police department that will oversee this. And some very strong safeguards in terms of language inside the contract if the stipulations are not being met or we are not satisfied with the oversight and the accountability. And I know that is not going to be a problem because we have very good management in the police department. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank
So
you.
again, thank you for coming tonight.
Any further discussion?
yeah, well, I have no problem with the people involved or anything like that, but I do feel this is a liability on the city that we should not be taking on. There's a lot of things that could go wrong with this. There's loaded weapons involved. If something were to head south, the city, as I'm finding out, can end up on the wrong side of lawsuits. And for that reason, I'm not against the position at all. I just don't feel the city should be involved. I think people are very capable that are involved in this. I have no problem with that. I just have a problem with the liability issue, and for that reason, I'm speaking up.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
No.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
No,
Carried.
Item 7.207, appointment of Justin Stearns to zoning board of appeals.
Motion by Counselor Gibbs, second by Counselor Talon. Discussion.
Yes, I've known Justin for a long time. He was a former student of mine. I just wanted council to know that I fully support him. He is very bright. He's been engaged in our community for years. And I think that this is going to be a really great fit for the city.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Item 7.208, authorized budget transfer, general fund, police copier lease and motor vehicle accounting correction.
Motion by Counselor Canales, second by Counselor Bob. Discussion. Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yeah.
Council Gibbs?
Yes.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob? Yes. Council Moore?
Yes.
Carried.
Item 7.209, authorized budget transfer, general fund, police asset seizure spending.
Motion by Counselor Gibbs, second by Counselor Canales. Discussion.
Yes, could you, I can't remember exactly
Reminder,
what this is for.
This is a Stone Garden grant.
Right,
This is
Stone Garden.
actually pre-funding a bridge to the Stone Garden grant out of asset seizure for camera monitoring.
That's right.
But it is paid, it's paid for. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibbs?
Yes.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob? Yes. Council Moore?
Yes.
Carried.
Item 7.210, authorize 2 police department employees to travel to New Orleans for the International Associations of Chiefs of Police.
Motion by Counselor Canales, second by Counselor Gibbs. Discussion.
Yes, I think this is excellent, be able to send 2 of our officers to this. And having gone back and looking at records, I know that there was a time in the past where there was counselors that even went to this as well, because it's not just for police, it's a good symposium, international at that, to get good connections on how to run municipalities safely and wisely. So this is, I'm excited.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yeah.
Council Gibbs?
Yes.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob? Yes. Council Moore?
Yes.
Carried.
Item 7.211, budget transfer, general fund policy, police fees for services insurance deductible.
Motion by Counselor Gibbs, second by Counselor Bob. Thank you. Roll call. I'm sorry. Discussion. Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yeah.
Council Gibbs?
Yes.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob? Yes. Council Moore?
Yes.
Carried.
Item 7.212, authorized revising capital project H5110.78, 2021 public service building.
Motion by Counselor Gibbs, second by Counselor Canales. Discussion.
Yes, we discussed this at the meeting, the public safety meeting. I'm still not clear on on this. Is Richard here? Richard. I didn't know you were here. I'm sorry. We discussed this pretty heartily the other night, and I wasn't clear on, I understand what it's supposed to do, but there's this allocation of water and sewer, and this repair got put in there, and I was very unclear about it. And like the money allocation and how this, can you explain this to me?
You need to go up there.
Yeah, please. That way the people at home can hear you.
Capital project for public service building.
Capital project, first of all, everybody says, is this budgeted? You're budgeting it right now. What you're doing now with these, every time these are brought forward, this is you appropriating funds to be spent and then either reimbursed by borrowing or taken right out of operating funds or reserve funds. So capital projects aren't part of the normal budgeting process. Okay?
I'm
Get
taking
that?
notes.
Okay. So you see that this started as a $200,000 project.
Yes.
That DPW said was going to be just for their boiler. So that was the capital cost that was put in the original plan for capital expenditures. And then they further said the estimate's okay. Then they came along and said, no, we need 180,000 more for the HVA system out at, or the boiler system out at DPW. So that's the first 3 columns. Okay. Next, fire chief calls and says, hey, I got to do the ramps in front of both my stations. So it's a building improvement. So it gets added in for $100,000. See, 60,000 for the ramp at station 1, 40 for 2. That's all general fund spending. If it's going to be borrowed funds, the general fund would be responsible for the debt service. If it's not borrowed funds, it's coming out of the general fund because the fire stations are part of the general fund. So that's why you see 100,000 being added to the last line, taking it from 126,000 to 226.
Okay, so,
Okay.
So then the water and sewer fund was not impacted by this. That's
The
what I
ramps
wanted,
have nothing to do with the water and sewer.
that's what I wanted to know.
Now,
Okay,
The reason that we say that the water and sewer and the general fund are part of this boiler system is because they went through a consolidation of services back around the year 2000. And so they said they're going to split all the DPW costs, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, water, sewer, general. So that's why the first allocation is there.
Okay. That was very clear. Thank you very much. I
You're welcome.
appreciate that.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yeah.
Council Gibbs?
Yes.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob?
Yes.
Council Moore?
Yes.
Carried.
Item 7.213, authorized budget transfer general fund fire department training and gear expenses.
Motion by Counselor Gibbs, second by Counselor Canales. Discussion. Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibbs?
Yes.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob?
Yes.
Council Moore?
Carried. No executive session. Is there any new business come before this council?
Mayor, in tonight's public comments, a couple people actually came up and said that it's very difficult to walk on the sidewalks and very difficult to ride a bicycle on the streets. So it sounds like we have people using their bicycles on the sidewalk and walking in the street. It's supposed to be the other way around. I thought maybe we could have some public discussion or some discussion about this at the next infrastructure committee meeting. I think that might not be a bad thing to do. And I also have noticed that some of the sidewalks are being grinded down to make the transition from one section to the next a little easier. And I wonder have we purchased equipment to do that, or have we contracted with someone to do that? I can't ever recall having discussion about that, but I do see it taking place on our various city sidewalks.
I'll confirm, but my understanding is that we do actually own equipment and we do that on an active basis. We've talked about the issues of our sidewalks from the beginning. This year, we allocated $50,000 as a kind of a pilot into developing and enhancing some of our sidewalks.
That does seem to help.
No, it has, and we'll look to see how that kind of pans out. $50,000 is not a lot, considering the amount of sidewalks we have. We know that biking infrastructure and biking on the street is not safe, which is why we put together a 3-phase plan and had multiple community engagements on, either in person, in City Hall, even online. It's posted online as well. We'll continue to push that plan out. Based on that plan, we had significant amount of feedback that we have made some changes and adjustments. We also know that as a community, we don't have an active biking culture, not only from a bicyclist perspective, but of a driver's perspective as well. And that has to come together. That has been part of that conversation for implementing that bike safety plan. It needs to be both. It can't just be put. It's got to be more comprehensive. We've known that from the beginning. It can't just be put biking infrastructure in and people start biking. It's got to be biking infrastructure, lights. Gentlemen talked about signals and indicators on the lights and crosswalks. It's got to be public education on the rules of the road, both bicyclists and drivers. So it's a comprehensive. Again, we understand that there's issues with our sidewalks. It's old. I don't think you can correct me if I'm wrong. You've been here longer than I have, but I don't know if we've ever actively put money towards sidewalk infrastructure. We did this year, but
DPW typically selects a section or sections of sidewalk all around the city to repair just about every year.
Sure.
So, but we got a lot of sidewalks and not a lot of money to spend on them, so we don't ever do them all at any given time.
well, we can't do them all. Sometimes when, in your area, we've replaced a handful of sidewalks because we've repaved and part of it is if we're going to do a sidewalk, let's do it appropriately. It's got to be ADA compliant. Let's make sure that's usable and walkable. It's a balance between not just repaving and building more roads, but repaving infrastructure that allows people to move with their choice of transportation, whether it be walking, biking, driving, bus.
I agree with you 100%. The DPW has done an excellent job of repairing and changing sidewalks to become ADA compliant. And I hope they continue to do that. And I hope to find some money perhaps in the future to do more of it.
I'm sorry, is it possible that, we've had these conversations in council for a while, ever since we got word of this, but is it possible that some of this money from the federal government, this COVID money that we got for infrastructure for the next year, maybe that's part of the discussion that you could have in your infrastructure committee?
Sure, part of understanding what that spending is hiring our single audit folks to do that analysis on what that money can be spent on within the city before we just start allocating money. Right. So.
But barring any, large influx of funds, that sidewalk grinding program appears to be really promising. Most sidewalks are in fine shape except for, a little section here and
Sure.
there.
I think we got trees and roots in this old infrastructure, right? Those things grow, expand, crack, right? And we're responsive for that. And, I talked to Beth about the Miss Edwards who came and mentioned the sidewalk trip, and that's certainly always a concern for us. Whenever we do get those complaints and concerns, we forward them immediately, and we're actually within law required to fix them within a reasonable amount of time. So after we've been notified of it. So it's not something we hear about and then we just say, oh, it'll take care of itself. We actually are required to go and fix it.
Speaking of public works, I want to give some praise to the Public Works Department for the streets they paved in my ward that look fantastic. They look so good. So please pass my thanks along to them.
Absolutely.
For their good work.
Well, since we're on the public works, and public works has been somewhat involved, one section of the new bridge went in today, the section between us, Pine Street and Saranac Street. It's now in place and you can go look at it. I got pictures of it if you'd like to see. But that's pretty exciting. It's a big thing that's happening in my neighborhood. And I'm really happy to be a part of it.
When will it be pedestrian accessible?
Slated towards the fall.
When is that, Chris? I'm sorry.
Slated towards the fall.
Towards,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Any new business?
Yeah.
Seeing none, I will now entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Counselor Bob, second by Counselor Gibbs. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are now adjourned.
Yeah.